Thanks for coming to hear the Quord on the Street. And tonight will be the night. I am your genre host, Vince. Don't make me change my mind. And with me, I've got a two-dimensional rodent just running around, falling in way too many spike traps, and dropping all of his rings. It's your Sonic host, Josh. What's up?
What's going on, man? That was quite the introduction.
Yeah, it was okay. So how you doing this week? How was your week? Anything exciting happen?
Well, maybe I might have come out to visit you.
Really? Did I know about that?
You might have. Maybe just a little bit.
Okay. It does ring a bell. All right. In case it's not immediately obvious, we're Quord on the Street here. I'm Vince, that's Josh. Every week, we each choose one of 28 words generated from puzzle word game Wordle, and we'll be talking about those words. Today is a show where we're choosing words from May 8th to the 14th. You can see that on our Instagram at Quord on the Street or on our Twitter at Quord on the ST. Anything to say before we get started, Josh? Because you're starting this week, I believe.
Yeah, no, I don't think I have anything other than diving right into it. I mean, other than it was nice to get out there and catch up in person and just hang out. Don't get to do it all that often, so it's good.
Yeah, I know. Basically every 6 weeks with how my schedule works out is
yeah
the only time we get the opportunity.
Then providing that you don't already have something planned or I don't already have something planned.
Yeah.
So yeah, but for this week, I chose something that I feel like maybe a lot of people will enjoy listening to. The word they might not think of leading to this point, but I chose LASSO this week, and I chose that because it made me think of the television show Ted Lasso. I have actually not even seen Ted Lasso yet. It's definitely on my list to watch. But
hilarious.
It made me think of TV shows and all there is to be encompassed in that topic. So I figured we could dive into those today.
Yeah, well, let's dive in, or else we might have another, half an hour topic like genre I brought last week.
Oh, yeah. Yep. So I wanted to start off with talking about our top 5 TV shows. I know this is going to be a rough one, but it was difficult with albums, but I figured we'd give this one a go. Why don't we just ping pong back and forth again, say the show, give 2 or 3 lines about it, and then we can move on so we don't go as long this time.
All right, sure.
I'll start off if you want, or you can start off. Doesn't matter to me.
I don't know. You could start off. I was just going to talk about how I actually chose these.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I wasn't going to just be able to make a list and eliminate it the way that I did with albums. So I thought of 4 genres of shows, and then basically picked from each of those plus one,
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up choosing. Did you end up doing the same sort of thing, or were you able
to? That's how I started, and then I realized that so many of the shows that I have cross so many genres they could be kind of considered multiple.
Sure, yeah. I had a couple that just defied genre, so I put them in wild card.
Yeah. Some of them were just pretty intertwined, and I was like, well, I can't get rid of this one. I can't get rid of this one. So I decided to just kind of go together and take the plunge and knock off one. So I'll start off first. My first pick. This is the only one of the 5 that is in a specific order. This is by far the number 1 show for me, and that is Entourage.
Okay.
It's just I have loved this show since the first time I watched my very first episode.
Yeah,
it's just something about it.
I haven't watched it in years. I've heard other people say that it hasn't aged well.
I just rewatched
but
it.
I know you just rewatched it.
Oh god, you know what? And I jotted down some notes about it and kind of why I love it. So it feels like home to me, if that makes any sense. So the overall feeling of the show is kind of rooted in strength of friendship throughout the entire show, and growing up with a core group of friends. It kind of reminds me of our group growing up. So I think that might have something to do with me enjoying that specific type.
Yeah, I get that.
I think it's one of I think we talked about this a little before, but I think it's one of the first shows that really gives you the amount of immersion that it gets, because most shows or any kind of written material is normally you're taking place in another world, where Entourage takes place in this world.
Okay.
So it ties to reality because you're seeing other celebrities that are actual celebrities in real life, so it makes you feel like you're watching a reality TV show that's not a reality TV show.
Yeah, I get that. And everybody who's on the show who is a real person is sort of playing a character of themselves.
Yeah, so they act like they are part of the thing.
Yeah, well, no, not even. They act like they're part of the thing. They act like they're themselves, but an elevated version of themselves. You know, I'm thinking of Matt Damon.
Yep.
Just like you know, being a nice, like, easygoing dude, and then all of a sudden getting intense, getting up in the face. It's for the kids, man. Yeah, it's for the kids.
Same thing like LeBron James being in it, and like Mark Wahlberg. Obviously, he was involved with the show.
Yeah.
Anyway, but just having those outside people that are from our reality and not part of a fictional world. I think just really drives it home. That and yeah, go ahead.
It's basically Mark Wahlberg's reality show.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it really
it's
is.
Mark Wahlberg's reality show before the Wahlburgers, before the people realized that celebrities could just have a reality show.
Yeah. I also find that the character development in the show is kind of amazing. So you really get to see how that lifestyle can change a person, and how, you know, what happens throughout the show with Vince. But also you get to see how that plays into everybody else, and like how his actions didn't just affect himself.
Yeah.
And it builds
all
that.
That's what you hear about people like that. You know, you have to sort of sort out who's just a hanger-on, who, you know, you need to trust their console, who, you know, it's a tough life for people out there. As easy as it seems to the outsider, like it's no more easy than, you know, a Midwestern life or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll go into mine. I don't have a particular order. I just sort of came up with my genres and put them in this order because, again, I don't know if I could come up with like a single favorite, but where I'll start with is definitely a strong contender. It is it's one of my picks from drama. It's The Leftovers.
I don't think I've ever seen any of that.
It is an HBO show. Okay. It is Damon Lindelof's follow-up to Lost.
Oh.
So I'll talk about Lost later in the show here, but The Leftovers was essentially the sort of writing that Damon Lindelof does best that he wasn't allowed to do in Lost.
Yeah.
So it's only 3 seasons, but the impact that those 3 seasons have is just phenomenal. It is the perfect confluence of the acting. The actors in it are great. It's Justin Theroux, Jennifer Aniston's husband. He's a great actor in his own right. Yeah. Carrie Coon has been in a lot of stuff since this, where she's really shown her chops. Regina King, Christopher Eccleston, just powerhouses of actors who sort of fly under the radar. Smash them all together in this show with a great showrunner like Damon Lindelof, and you get this just superb, effective, philosophical, religious look on how real people would react to something like the Rapture, is essentially what it is. Like 2% of the world's population just disappears all of a sudden. And
I think you told me about this before.
I've definitely told you about it, but it's the sort of thing that sounds really heavy, so people don't end up going and looking for it. And I get that. Like, I try to recommend it, but it's a hard show to recommend because it sounds so heavy. But it really is just a masterpiece.
I think I probably just completely forgot the name, because as soon as you started talking about it, I was like, wait a minute, I remember having a discussion about this. Yeah, it's definitely something I want to check out. I remember you telling me about.
So that's how I'll put it is it's Damon Lindelof's follow-up to Lost, and it is the show that got him his shot to doing The Watchmen, another HBO show. So he's had a great track record so far, and this is easily his masterpiece.
I'm definitely going to have to take the time out to watch it now. Seems like it's something you thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't say too much about it. It is great. It is weird. It builds you up and it lets you down in all the right ways.
Well, that's definitely something worth checking out. All right, so we'll jump into my second one. Again, these last 4 are not in a particular order, but my second in my list, I have Suits.
Okay, yeah.
Have you watched Suits? I think we talked about this previously a little bit.
I watched the first season or two of Suits. I don't really know. It's been a long time. But I watched some of it. I know what it's about and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think I watched any of it after he gets disbarred.
Oh yeah, it definitely. It
I don't even remember the characters' names.
Mike,
yeah,
or Harvey. Harvey's like the big shot lawyer that takes a chance on Mike.
Yep.
So some of the notes I have about why Suits is up here for me. It just makes you feel good. I feel like it's not something you would think about when you think about hearing the name Suits, but there's always like this overarching feeling that all of the characters are good. And the storyline of Mike being able to come from where he came from and work his way into, the high ranks of a law firm in New York City.
To con his way in, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, cons his way in. But again, even then, like his entire time during the show, while some of them may have other agendas, you just feel like everybody wants to be. There's like a sense of family within the entire law firm.
Yeah. It's starting to come back to me a little bit. It's got Carrie Ann Moss in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, yep.
And I don't know the actor's name, but Varys, the eunuch from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
The fat bald dude.
Yep.
Yeah. And Meghan Markle, of course.
Meghan Markle. Gabriel Mosh.
Princess Meghan Markle.
Yeah. It's got a good cast, and I think that's also what made the show kind of also really appealing. Is while it has like a lot of names you might not recognize, but you'll know the person by looking at them.
Yeah, a lot of that guys.
They're not. Yeah, they're not. None of the characters are typecast, so they're super believable. Like each one of those characters at the end of the show, they wear that role to me.
Yeah.
And there are some guests obviously that step outside of that where they're bigger than the show. I love like the brotherly love style of stuff between Mike and Harvey. I think that just adds to it. And then
it's almost a found family sort of feel.
Yeah. And then I really think that it depicts, like, again, you won't know much about this because you haven't, I don't know if I've watched enough of it or remember it, but it depicts some everyday struggles that like men deal with that they're too afraid to talk about. So Harvey has issues forgiving his father. He has issues with his mother, how those issues play into relationships and his view in women. He struggles with like mental health stuff and all those things that he doesn't want to talk about, and you can see him trying to be this badass brick shit house, just impenetrable wall, but then you also see like he's just one small rock from shattering this glass pane.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure
they walk that line perfectly.
I'm sure a lot of the toxic masculinity dudes are probably like, that's such bullshit. Yeah, I would never. But yeah, I mean,
that's why that show is so good. And talking about that point, because
it kind of bucks that.
Yeah, it puts that tough guy who I would never in that scenario. Like, you don't think of somebody that's got tons of money, who's a well-established lawyer in New York City. He has, his name is out there. He's got everything. You wouldn't think that he's struggling, and in fact he could.
Well, that's always been my theory about like strong men is like, strength without flexibility is brittle.
Yep. And
therefore weak. So, it's interesting that this show actually explores that in a scenario like, a big time law firm.
Yep.
So that's interesting. We'll go ahead and keep this moving on, hopefully.
Yeah, yep.
I'll go into my second pick. Again, mine aren't in any particular order, so I'll go to my comedy pick, which, again, is a found family show. It's Community. I'll go through my honorable mentions afterwards. I'm sure you will too. We'll have to actually like blow through them.
Yeah.
Unlike the album discussion, our honorable mentions we still ended up talking about. But yeah, Community is very near, just barely my favorite comedy. It's just so good. The found family elements and the charisma and the chemistry that the whole cast has. And then you have just phenomenal performances. You got Donald Glover in it. You've got, Joel McHale is an underrated actor. can't remember her name right now, but you got, Yvette Nicole Brown, another underrated actor, but she is just powerful. You have like Chevy Chase, who apparently people didn't really like on set, but he did a good job in the show. And I don't know, the show it's such a simple premise with, people are just in community college, and this ragtag bunch of misfits gets together in a study group where one dude's just trying to get in a girl's pants. But then they find out, how well they work together, and they form this sort of indomitable friendship that lasts for 6 seasons and fingers crossed, a movie. That's like a catchphrase in the show, 6 seasons in a movie, because one of the characters gets really meta on it. But yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, it's just so good. It's hard to overstate how good it is. It's written by Dan Harmon, who went on to do Rick and Morty.
Yep.
So it's a really strong comedic voice too, and it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time, but I remember just thoroughly enjoying it. And I mean, some of the first episodes are some of the ones that stick out the most to me still. Like,
yeah,
just them.
Did you at least get to watch the Dean rap?
I don't think so.
You would probably remember. I think it is in the Yahoo season.
Yeah,
but it's one of the best parts of the whole show. I'll send it to you afterwards.
I'm gonna have to just go back and rewatch this.
Yeah.
It's been so long, I don't even remember.
It's worth it, and it's a fun, easy rewatch too. You can watch it while you do other stuff, and it's it takes your enough attention that you can still get it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love Donald Glover, Childish Gambino. Like, he's awesome.
He's so good. I've been watching Atlanta lately.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick that up as well. I don't know. I gotta start Atlanta first, and then I'll hop to this.
Yeah, I think that's the right way.
Yeah. All right, so moving on for my third pick, it's gonna be How I Met Your Mother.
Okay.
Okay, you just concede that one. You're like, that makes sense.
I can get this pick. It was not in the running for me, but I have some sour feelings about how it ended. I'm not like mad about it like a lot of people are, but I didn't like it either.
So my notes for the show are characters, and this show just might have like my favorite variety of cast. Like you have the hopeless romantic in Ted, you have the big goof in Marshall, you have the strong silent type woman in that's more manly in Robin, and then Lily, just kind of the polar opposite to Robin. And then I also have down like Neil Patrick Harris playing Barney is probably one of my favorite television roles.
Yeah,
he just does it so well, and it's done in a way where it's borderline cringe funny. I feel like
it is,
but it's believable because that's how just goofy friends are.
Yeah, I recently, I didn't actually go back and watch it, but I recently watched a clip from the final season of How I Met Your Mother, and I think it's different when you watch it all straight through, but like the last season it's not great. Like, you talked about the character development in your first pick.
Yep.
And there's essentially no character development in How I Met Your Mother. Like, in the last season, they're all the same character that they are in the first season, and it ran for 9 seasons.
Yeah.
So like, now that I'm thinking about it, after I've watched a lot more shows, and especially a lot more like prestige shows that, make you feel superior and pretentious.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is a show that I don't know if I could go back and watch, really.
I definitely could. See, I feel like it's just a good feeling show. It doesn't need the character development. How I Met Your Mother to me is my Friends to everyone else.
I can respect that. I would rather hear somebody talk about How I Met Your Mother than talk about Friends.
It's that you can put it on. There's a big overarching scheme, but you can miss episodes here or there. It's not going to kill you.
Yep.
It just has every good little bit of sadness, wittiness, funny. It just gives me this great feeling. I feel like it's well rounded. Yeah,
I get that. It is a feel good show, and it's one of the first times that Lin-Manuel Miranda was on screen. True. So there's that too.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and bring up again, broken down into my categories. My next one is anime. I had to choose an anime on here. I don't think Josh is big into it unless he chooses Dragon Ball Z, which is a called shot here. But unless he chooses that, he's not going to have anime. So I had to choose one. And my choice for anime is Baccano. It's a sort of under the radar anime. It is about this set of immortals who sort of take over the gang scene in mafia era Chicago, and their sort of trials and tribulations dealing with the mortals and dealing with the infighting between the 12 of them or something like that. And they stop aging. So one of them's like a little kid. And I don't know. It's just so good. The story is so well rounded. And maybe what makes it for me is that because it's set in Chicago, the English version of it is so strong. I haven't seen another anime where the dub is better than the sub, but this is definitely one, and especially because it's set in America, that really gives it this sort of special feeling. Not to mention the soundtrack in it is just jazzy as hell. And the theme song, the theme song has been my ringtone for years.
So how do you spell that? What did you say the name of it was?
Baccano. Baccano. It's Italian for noise, basically.
Maybe I'll have to step out of my comfort zone and watch it. I don't have anything against anime. I haven't found any that drew me in. I tried watching Attack on Titan. I tried Bleach. I tried Naruto. The one that I got the most into outside of Dragon Ball was Gurren Lagann.
Yeah. Other than Gurren Lagann, all the ones that you said are like kind of long form. You know, Attack on Titan just ended after 4 seasons. Yeah. That's the shortest one of the other ones that you've mentioned. Like Bleach was another one of my possibilities up here, but that was like 13 seasons. Half of them are filler. Yeah. It's hard to get into something that's that long. So check out, there's a lot of animes out there that are just one and done stories that are like 26 episodes long. It's a typical length for an anime. Find some and see if you can get into it. I found a lot of like slice of life animes have been getting really popular lately. Yeah. And I'm not into those either. But that's just because I'm an old man, I think. I'm not a zoomer.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with, which I'm coming around to it more. It doesn't bother me anymore, but there's not a lot of dubs. A lot of dubs suck.
Yep.
And I'm not big on subs. I'm more willing to do it now than I used to be, but I definitely don't enjoy reading along as much as not having to, which is why I don't read books like you read it. Well, you listen to a lot of them now, but you've always been more into reading than I was.
I am trying to read too. It's something that I'm actually trying to do again because I'm old. Like I'm realizing the sort of limitations of my attention span. Like I'm trying to watch Overlord right now, and I know the sub is better. So I'm trying to watch it, but it's hard to pay attention to a show for long enough. Like a movie, I can put my phone down and pay attention to because I know there's a time limit on it. But a show like you're watching for 10 hours a season, 6 seasons, like you're putting 60 hours into this thing. It's hard to focus in that much. So I get the hesitation to go with the subs.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your fourth, though.
My fourth pick is going to be one that I know you've seen. I'm actually not sure how you feel about it. But it's Heroes.
I stopped watching it. I don't know. I watched the first 2 seasons of Heroes. I think I stopped watching about halfway through the 3rd, which I think is a common sentiment with Heroes.
Yeah, a lot of people did. I don't know. It just always hooked me. I think for me, it was like they gave us new heroes to learn to love. I think that's part of the reason that it was so intriguing for me. Growing up, it was like you got all your comic book heroes and you know what to expect. But this being like obviously roughly based on some comics, like some of the characters' powers and stuff appear as other people in other comics, but you never really knew what was possible. So I think like having that new world with superheroes in it was really just something that drew me in.
Yeah. I mean, talking about it the way you were just talking about it, I see how incredibly influential this show was, right? Like maybe Heroes and The Watchmen are probably responsible for a lot of the like anti-hero shows that we're seeing these days, like Invincible or The Boys.
Yeah, it was one of the first shows, or even really any kind of media that had like that dark overtone when dealing with superheroes.
Yeah. I think it probably suffered from the same thing that Lost suffered from, in that it was a network show.
Now, Hero suffered from the fact that it was competing with Lost the whole time. That's what killed Hero.
Yeah.
They were on
but
at the same time,
but it's also it's a network show, right? That's what I'm talking about with Lost. Like it was on CBS or NBC, something like that.
Yeah, CBS.
But the thing about Lost and Heroes is it's, they're dark. They have these dark overtones, these heavy themes, and not a single person says fuck the whole show.
Yeah.
Don't believe it. It's hard to believe a character who crashes on an island or gets someone like super punched in their brain. Yeah. And isn't like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very true.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, always. And then, I guess that's kind of everything I had written down for them. I think we just talked about it. It was like, it was more gory and violent than most. I think
it was really paved the way for the
boundaries. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
did.
yeah. All right, I'll go ahead and go with my fourth. I realized thinking about this, I like a lot of I call them reality shows. It's what they are in truth, but they're not like reality shows. I'm not watching Bravo, Yeah. But I came up with like game shows basically, or like Clarkson's Farm is another one that was an honorable mention. But the one that I went with in this category is Great British Bake Off or Great British Baking Show, depending on whether you're under the thumb of Nestle or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just so nice. I had a lot of like competition shows on here. I realized just how much I like competition shows. I also had Chopped and Forged in Fire on here too, but those are a little intense. Like Great British Bake Off is a great show. Makes it into my top 5 because like it's kind of where I come down on a lot of things. I have a sort of competitive streak. We have a game night every week that you came to this week, and there's a inherently competitive thing to that. But I'm not going to be mad at someone else for winning, and I'm not going to be mad if somebody else does a great job. If someone sets up an engine in a deck building game that I have to respect, I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm going to be astounded by it, and I feel like that's the feeling that the Great British Bake Off captures. Is these people are competing, but they also want everybody to do their best so that they know in the end that they're better.
Yeah, that's definitely so. I feel like it's like that in a lot of them. Like I didn't have any of these styles of shows on my list, but I definitely I watched a lot of MasterChef, a bunch of different cooking shows.
It also doesn't suffer from the Americanized version of these competition shows where it's like, and the winner is commercial.
Yeah.
So it's because it's illegal in the UK, but it's
it's also just stop plots to do commercials.
Yeah, it's illegal to do that sort of cliffhanger and send to commercial because it's state television.
Yeah.
But yeah. Sorry, I wanted to get that in before you started talking about it.
No, I mean, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched, like I said, MasterChef and a bunch of the other cooking shows, and I feel the same way. Like there's something just again, they're light, they're palatable. You don't have to pay attention a ton, and also like you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, right. I haven't watched MasterChef, but I imagine that it's similar to like the Next Iron Chef, where it's a competition show, but at least it takes a whole season. So these people can't like actually just like fight each other.
Yep.
So yeah, that's my fourth.
That's a very solid choice. So we'll move into, I guess, my final pick. This one I know you've never seen. I'd be surprised if you even know about it.
Okay.
It's the Fosters.
Nope.
I didn't think so. I figured you wouldn't. The Fosters is basically kind of just how it sounds. It's a show about foster children.
Okay.
You have one of the main characters, Callie. You have her and her brother who are put into the system, and they kind of got the shit end of the stick. They had bounced around between foster homes, had abusive foster parents. Callie was sexually abused, and brother was beaten by some of these people. They just got the real short end.
Yeah.
And then they end up getting separated, and Callie is in juvie for basically going after the foster parent that was beating her brother, but she couldn't prove it. So she got put into juvie for all of that, and they needed like a transfer place for her, and she ends up getting placed with this lesbian couple, who one is a teacher at a school or a counselor of some sort, and the other is a cop.
Okay.
And they're like a blended family, so they have the kind of more masculine one of the relationship. Her name's Steph. She was previously married to a man, and she has a son, Brandon.
Okay.
And then you have when they were together, have two kids that they were like long-term fostering and ended up adopting. Mariana and, God, why can't I think of the guy's last name? Or the kid's name, the brother's name at this moment? I don't know. I have a brother. He has a brother. Drawing a blank on the brother's name.
That's okay. I forgot the actress's name from Community too. So
yeah. So here they already have 3 kids, and then they get her, and like they're not. The Steph, the cop, kind of hesitant because it's obviously like, you know, you're bringing a criminal into our home. But it has a lot of just outside perspective. I feel like the show provokes a lot of change because there's so much going on in like packaged into the show. They're in an upper scale area of California. They're you know, a same sex marriage couple. One is a police officer. One works at a private school.
Okay.
You know, you have all those different topics are overarching, and then you have the foster system, and then one of the other kids, Steph's son from her first marriage, and Callie, the main foster girl, they end up having something between, like, feelings between them, so it touches like those unforbidden kind of things, you know, stuff that happens that you don't want to talk about that happens kind of deal. And then like social injustice with standing up for sexual assault and stuff with Callie, political injustice, racism, racial topics. Like, it just has a lot of different subjects that are explored. Again, I think kind of for the same way that I love Suits and how it talks about the subjects with, you know, that men struggle dealing with. This is just an entire show filled with dealing with those subjects in a way that's palatable for a family time night show.
Yeah, sure. What's the recent show that people have been talking about that kind of feels the same way that you're talking about this? It deals with a lot of like more modern issues. It's a Netflix show. Heartstopper?
Maybe. If it is, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Heartstopper. Nicole was telling me about this. Oh, maybe not. Am I gonna look like a moron? Oh yeah, adapted from a webcomic. Okay, yeah, this is the one that she was talking to me about. It's gay schoolboy falls in love with his classmate, and yeah, it seems like similar but more modern themes on that sort of thing, with, you know, just broaching the tough topics and really getting into it, but in a way that is still entertaining, that's actually going to capture people who may not just want to read a news article about it, you know?
Yeah. Jesus, brother's name, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's important to get, because even if people don't realize it now, like, say it goes right over parents' heads, but they're watching it with their 12 or 13-year-old, like, these are things that start provoking thought, like comparing what's happening in there or what's happening in real world society now. I don't know. I guess I'm a sucker for that real world punch when it's got a connection to.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially with the issues that you're talking about were really coming to the fore while this show was running. I looked it up. It ran from 2013 to 2018.
Yep.
So
it's got a spin-off as well called the Good Trouble. That's what it was called.
Good Trouble.
Yeah.
I just saw it. But yeah, so that's interesting. And I guess do you have anything else? Last things to say about it?
Move on to yours.
Okay. My last one, again, I had a wild card topic, and I thought if I could pick one from each of the genres, I wouldn't have to use the wild cards, but I couldn't use the wild cards. I couldn't get rid of my second pick in drama, and that's Mr. Robot.
Another one I've never seen.
It's just, I don't know, it's so good. I don't know how much I actually want to say about it, because there's some major twists in it that are central to the main character's development, but I'll just sort of give the premise of it. It's this dude Elliot who is working at an IT firm, IT security, and he is basically just hacker man. You know, he sort of white hat hacks these criminals child molesters and stuff. And that's sort of what he does. And he stumbles upon this grander sort of black hat hacker organization. And it is his sort of mission throughout the whole series that he's, infiltrating and taking them down and then dealing with the repercussions of that. And it is just, the character work in it is phenomenal. It is, why can't I remember his name now? Rami Malek. Okay. This is the role that got him the Bond villain role.
Yeah.
It is Christian Slater making a return. He's phenomenal. BD Wong as the main antagonist is absolutely phenomenal. Performance of his career for sure. And the way it's a good show. It has some stumbling blocks along the way. I've heard people levy criticisms, but the last season, and especially the way that it wraps up, is probably the best ending to any show that I could imagine. I mean, it just comes together, maybe not cleanly, but in a satisfying way where you are not left wanting. Whereas my other pick in drama is also a show that ended, Leftovers.
Yep.
That show ends sort of ambiguously. It leaves it up to you.
Yeah.
What you want to think happened. I have my interpretation, and if you watch it, I would love to hear when you're done what your interpretation of it is, because I'm into that sort of thing. But It can be a little unsatisfying for some people. I think The Leftovers does it in a good way that even people who are critical of that style will like. But Mr. Robot definitely wraps it up in a great way. Best ending of a series that I've ever seen.
I thought that guy looked familiar. So he plays Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody as well.
Yep. That's another role that I forget because I haven't actually watched that movie yet.
It's probably a bigger one that he got from Robot.
Yes.
Well, probably a combination of having. That's probably what helped get him more into the Bond movie. Was combination of those two. I'm sure was big.
Absolutely, and I can't talk too highly about Mr. Robot. It's a sort of prestige show. With Game of Thrones, I really got into listening along with podcasts to shows that would analyze them, and Mr. Robot is a perfect sort of show for that. So I think that drew me in a little bit extra.
Yeah.
I to the point where I think I would recommend watching and listening to analysis at the same time. That's the way that I watched The Leftovers. Is I would watch 2 or 3 episodes, and then the next day I would listen to the podcast corresponding to those episodes.
I get that. That's kind of how I deal with some of the Lost in Vegas videos that we were talking about.
Yeah, sure.
I'll listen to a song and then watch their review of it after.
Yeah. All right. So that's I can gush all day about Mr. Robot and The Leftovers, but I think we should probably move on.
Run through our
chain gun off our. Yeah, maybe we'll do 3 at a time.
Okay. My first 3 on my list are Dark Angel, Shameless, and Atypical.
Okay. I almost put Shameless on my list, but it didn't make my list at all. But my first 3 are Westworld, Mad Men, and Invincible. Those are for my drama.
Okay. My next 3 are Weeds, Breaking Bad, and Ozark.
Yeah. I have Arrested Development, a show called You're the Worst, and Silicon Valley.
And I have Vampire Diaries, The Originals, and The 100.
I had Atlanta, Animes or Trigun, and Attack on Titan. And in reality, I had Clarkson's Farm. Are you done with yours?
Nope.
Okay.
I'll just keep going. I'm just going to rattle off the rest of mine.
Yeah, good.
I got All American, Lost, Sons of Anarchy, Prison Break, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and The Boys.
Yep. And to finish off mine, I have Taskmaster, Chopped, Top Gear / The Grand Tour, and then defying definition, I have Legion and Black Mirror.
Okay, great choices as well that I honestly forgot about.
Now that you say it, oh fuck, what was the second to last one you said?
Fresh Prince.
Nope. Before that,
the Prison Break.
No,
the
shit.
Boys.
Whatever. You said one that I thought that should be on my honorable mentions, but whatever.
All right, we'll hop into one of my next questions. Kind of shotgun these the next 4 questions that I have.
Yeah, let's go. Although I do have a hot take, so we'll see how
fast
we get on that.
Yeah. My next question is going to be: what is the most memorable TV moment for you?
Most memorable? I couldn't think of one. I had a few. There's a moment in Mr. Robot, and this is actually maybe minor. It's a spoiler for Mr. Robot for sure. At least the first season. The ending of the first season. But Mr. Robot has a Fight Club moment. If you kind of know what I mean by that, then you know what I mean. If you don't, then you're safe. Okay. But that's one of the best moments. I also have two more because I couldn't pick. Westworld, the time weirdness in Westworld, like it's essentially telling two stories at the same time, and you don't really realize it for a long time. And then the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't choose just one either. I have, okay, so let me rephrase that. If I think about the question of what is the most memorable TV moment, to me that means when I think immediately about that, what's the first scene that comes to mind?
Yeah.
And for me, that is one that I probably don't even know if you've seen, but that would have been Opie, who's a character in Sons of Anarchy. Him dying or basically giving his life. That moment in the TV show just stuck with me. Like I remember it happening, and I was just like, "What the hell?"
Yeah. I think I watched that. I watched a little bit of Sons of Anarchy. I fell off of it. It really wasn't my speed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get that. If we're going with that though, I think an honorable mention, memorable TV moment is Ari in Entourage coming in with the paintball gun.
Oh yeah, it's so good, so good.
Yeah.
All right, my other ones in Fresh Prince when Will sees the episode where his father's in town, and his father like basically says that he's leaving again. Will breaks down about his father not wanting him. That one always gets me and makes me like, that's the first thing I think about when I think about that show, because it was just so in such a funny mannered show. It was one of the first times we really saw him have that kind of emotion in the show.
Yeah.
So that one for me would be big. Hank's death in Breaking Bad.
Okay.
Was another big one for me. I don't know if you've watched Ozark, but Del getting his head blown off for calling Darlene a redneck.
Yeah.
That one stuck with me. And then the last one was actually, funny enough, talking about Lost earlier, Charlie when he sacrifices himself to save Claire and Aaron.
Yep.
That one stuck with me.
That's the show that I should have put on my honorable mentions. Lost. I forgot to put that on my list at all, but it's there.
Okay. Is that all of them for you?
Yeah, that's all of them for me.
Okay, so let's dive into the next thought I had for this, which was TV shows that you hate to love. You know, what are the shows that a show that everybody else may think sucks, or you know, they don't necessarily approve of. It's not hip to watch it, but you just can't help but love it.
This pick for me, I went a little weird on this pick because I feel like lately this show is getting the love that it deserves, but at the time it did not. And that's Lost. Yeah. And the argument that I've seen people make lately, and I absolutely agree with, is Lost may go down as the single most important television show of all time.
Yeah, I mean, it plays a big part, and I feel like a lot of different cinema and shows since it's been out.
Yeah, it set the scene. It showed a different way to make a show, like the puzzle box of the show, the constant callbacks. And sure, there were mysteries on shows before, you know, the whodunit and dynasties, things like that. But Lost really set up these long-term things that you see in all shows these days. I'm watching Atlanta, right? And in the background of one of the scenes in Atlanta is a Childish Gambino album. That is the sort of set piecing, the sort of Easter eggs that you didn't really get in television before Lost. And it carries through in everything. People trying to guess storylines, people trying to guess character motivations. It all comes from Lost.
I feel like my my love for The Usual Suspects is what drove me to like Lost so much.
Yeah.
Just that.
It got tiresome at the time because it was only supposed to be like a 4 or 5 season show. Damon Lindelof wrote it to be a 4 or 5 season show, but it was such a hit. The network made him keep writing it, and then it got filler, and then people called the ending essentially, but not really. But then the ending came and people were like, it's basically what I said, and they just wrote it off.
Yeah.
And it was really sort of unfortunate at the time, but it recent years, it's definitely getting the love that it really does deserve.
Good. I had 2 for me. One's kind of not necessarily a specific show, but an encompassing genre of shows, I guess, and that's stuff like American Idol, The Voice, The Got Talents. If I'm watching them all. I don't watch them like live, but I watch the snippets of all of them, including other countries. And
yeah, Nicole and I got it really into The Masked Singer.
Yeah.
One season, like watched the speculation on who it is and all that, and that was really fun. Those shows are a good time.
I love seeing all the variety of artists. And it's only gotten better as time goes on, because they realize that it doesn't have to be a country singer or a pop singer for America to like them.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're
sure.
seeing a lot more artistry come through with like the acceptance of like Ed Sheeran and Charlie Puth. Stuff like that, where artistry really shines through. I think that's becoming more of a thing, so we're seeing more of those on there, so I really like that.
Yeah.
And then my other one is going to be the Vampire Diaries. I feel like it's kind of a show that people love hating on, but it really is well written, well directed, and well acted. The ending is kind of up in the air. I could agree, but when you have an actor that has other plans, you kind of gotta make do with what you can do.
Yep. Especially on a show that had the platform that it had, like a single actor could outgrow that platform. Yeah. Yep. And that gets tough.
Moving on, I go into what's your least favorite or most hated television show?
I don't know. I couldn't think of an answer for this one. Because I just don't watch things that I don't like. And the things that I have watched that I don't like, I can appreciate the artistry in. So I don't think they're bad. But I don't have I haven't watched a show that I feel is bad.
Yeah, mine is without a doubt The Bachelor.
Okay, sure.
I've only watched some of it. I just don't understand why it's so intriguing.
Yeah.
It's literally a show about things that you wouldn't think women would want to watch, but yet that's who's watching it. It's a show about a dude just running around dating a bunch of women, except it's even worse in the show because they're all living together, which means all of them know each other. It's not like he's just freely dating random people that he meets everywhere. These people are stuck together. It's literally the worst version of it, and people line up every week to watch it, and I just don't understand the appeal, and it just blows my mind.
Do you want to do this last point? It's where my hot take comes in.
Oh yeah, definitely. So most overrated and underrated shows.
You go first.
So for most overrated, for me, this one's might get me crucified by some, but I'm gonna die on this hill.
Not as much as me.
Okay. I'm gonna die on this hill. I actually was a fan of the show up to a certain point, and then they killed it for me. That's The Walking Dead. Yeah,
that's a pretty stock standard opinion. It got bad.
Yeah, but it still just has this following, and I don't know. It honestly made me hate that genre of movies, shows, anything. I don't want to see zombie stuff anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, it sort of broke its own formula, right? It was supposed to be a character study on how people interact in this life-threatening situation, and it ended up just turning into a zombie shoot-'em-up fest.
Yeah.
So I get that. That's the criticism that's constantly levied at it, and people only watched it until the end to hoping that it would get better again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So underrated for you?
The 100.
Yeah.
Have you seen that at all?
I started watching it. I had no reason to stop watching it. Just sort of fell off of it.
Yeah, it gets a lot of hate. Some of the acting definitely could be better. I will say that there's portions of it where you could tell that they could have had more conviction, but just the overall story of trying to recolonize Earth.
Yeah.
And going. It's just a cool take on it.
I
really enjoy and if you've not watched it yet. It gets crazy.
You know what? I think I watched a YouTuber who does I watched the first and last episode of this show. I think I've watched a video where he does the last episode, so I see how crazy it gets.
Oh yeah, it reminds me of. I would say it reminds me of Lost in that sense.
Yeah,
where it just takes turn after turn after turn.
Yeah,
and
it's like young adult Lost.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I get that.
So what about you? What's your hot takes here?
I'll bring up my hot take last.
Okay.
Because I have a lot to say about it, and I'll try to make it quick, but I'll end on it. I'll go with my underrated first.
Okay.
You're the Worst. It's a comedy show aired on FX, ended maybe a year or two ago. It's got Aya Cash, which people will know as Stormfront from The Boys. She is phenomenal in this show, and her co-star is also hilarious. It's one of the few shows that like I laugh out loud about. It's basically a show about LA. You know, it's a writer who just sold his book and he's struggling with royalties, and she's a publicist, and they're both just detestable people, but they're right for each other. So it's a comedy romance show, and it is phenomenal and deserves more attention.
See, like I have 4 shows on my list now from you that I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, yeah,
or at least 3. I'm gonna try the anime, but
yeah, I actually had 3 underrated shows though.
Oh wow!
No, another one is Drunk History. Comedians learn a history story, get drunk, tell it, and then they have big name actors, Nathan Fillion and Johnny Knoxville, and like Maya Rudolph, like basically reenact the history as it's told exactly by the smashed person. It is hilarious and worth a watch. It's definitely easy watching too. And the last one is Legion. It was on FX. It's an X-Men show about the X-Man. Not technically, he's a mutant called Legion. He is inhabited by an evil spirit, and because it deals with his sort of mental illness, it sort of edges right up to the idea that he has DID, dissociative identity disorder, but it's actually supernatural in his abilities. But the show just gets so wild. It is trippy. It is heartwarming. It will keep you on your toes the whole time, and it is great. It's visually stunning also.
And add that to my list.
Yeah. And then my overrated, this one was easy for me. Easy pick. It's Breaking Bad. I never got it. I watched the first 2 seasons of it, right? Mm-hmm. And right up until the plane crash. I actually don't know if that's 2 seasons. I think it may just be the first season. But the plane crash happens. This thing that had been signposted the whole season. Where's this thing come from? And then the police are there. And then there's a jet engine. And is just a sort of random happenstance. And I got mad and I stopped watching it. And then you convinced me to give it another chance. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I watched the whole thing. And it never got better. It just... I don't know, something about that one thing. Like, it's supposed to be the show about this dude who is struggling and does this horrible thing to deal with his struggle. And then for some reason, this random cosmic joke of an event happens and it never really comes back and it never really resolves. Like, Walt never finds out that it was the girl that he watched die's father who just happened to get distracted, and then the plane just happened to crash on his house. I don't know why that particular point sticks in my craw so bad, but I just don't like it, and it never gets better. And then it's just circular storytelling after that. Jesse fucks up, and Walt has to do something that he's uncomfortable with to fix it. In doing so, he loses a little bit of his humanity and fixes everything. They're okay for a while, and then Jesse fucks up, and then just rinse and repeat.
Yeah. See, so while that's on my, list of honorable mentions, I can understand why you feel this way. And I also think that some of Breaking Bad's fame, and the reason I think it was so well received, is it was kind of a dark version of Weeds. Okay. Or Weeds was kind of, soft-hearted. Breaking Bad was much more grimy and in your face.
Yeah, I guess.
So I think you had a big group of people that probably had liked Weeds and like that style of show.
I'm also starting to wonder if Breaking Bad ruined these actors for me too, because I actually, while I'm not a fan of Breaking Bad as a whole, the writing as a whole, the actors, I can't deny the performances. They're phenomenal. But also on the same coin, the reason that I didn't choose Westworld for my pick in drama is because I sort of stopped watching it, and I stopped watching it right around when Aaron Paul came in. And I'm not sure if that had an effect on me. I will go back and watch Westworld, but I don't know if seeing Aaron Paul in something else made me sort of unhopeful for where it was going. Just a sort of sour taste in my mouth from Breaking Bad.
Yeah, it sounds like that might be the case.
I hope that's not the case. I'll have to do some soul searching to figure out if it is. But yeah, that's my hot take. Breaking Bad, overrated, maybe bad.
See, I'll just throw myself under the bus because it was tough for me. I was torn. I almost picked another one for overrated, but I just haven't watched all of it through enough to say that it is. The time that
I get that.
and
The
that-
Office is. I feel like that's a hit or miss sort of one, like just like Friends.
That and I feel like it has it has the same style of comedy as like Parks and Rec and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched Parks and Rec first, so it just feels like a not as good version.
Yeah, Parks and Rec's better.
Yeah. I mean, that's my hot take. I know a lot of people absolutely love The Office, but
they do. Yeah.
I could never get into it.
You know what makes Parks and Rec better is that there's bigger characters in it.
Yeah.
You know, you never have a John Ralphio that comes in on The Office that is just wilding on people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where Parks and Rec shines. It's just bigger.
Yeah. I mean,
Whew.
Who doesn't love Ron Swanson?
Yeah. Okay. We are an hour into recording. Finished with one topic.
Well, can't say we're not giving enough content at least.
I guess so. All right. We'll move on to mine. I'm not actually sure how much we're going to have to say about mine. I think it's an interesting topic to talk about, especially with the people that you already know that you may not have talked to about this stuff. But I'm not actually sure how much you and I will have to say about it. And the word that I chose this week is haunt. Yeah, it got me thinking about a lot of stuff, basically just like supernatural or metaphysical stuff. So I'll start pretty light and see where we go from there. Do you have a favorite, like horror or supernatural or whatever, metaphysical? I'll even throw sci-fi in here, like story or movie or show. If you can pick one,
I could pick
what's
one
or not. I mean, you don't even have to dig down into it the way that we just
trying
did.
To think if there's. Yeah, I guess. I don't know if I. Yeah, I guess this could be considered into this. One that you haven't seen yet, but it was actually recommended, and I think you put it on your list. Tusks.
Yep. I've been aware of this movie.
I'm not gonna say too much because I really want you to watch it about it. But I just love how it's done. It's nowhere near what's expected, and every single person that I've told to watch it has just been like, what the fuck did you make me watch?
I know, because especially if you look a little bit into it first, right? Like it's a Kevin Smith film, so like you're really caught off guard by is what I've heard about it. I still need to watch it though.
Yeah, you do. I have a feeling you'll really like it.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your...
All of my picks in this sort of thing, I think, are like timey sort of stuff. I'm a sucker for time loops. I think my favorite pick is going to be a story. It's a short story by Philip K. Dick, I believe. It's called All You Zombies. Essentially, it's a time loop story where this time traveler, like, starts going back and trying to fix things, and the sort of crux of the whole, it's told in this like logbook style, and the crux of the whole story is that everybody in the entire story is the same character. It's really phenomenal sci-fi writing, and it's not even sci-fi. Like there's basically no science to it. It ends up being like a metaphysical exploration. And another one is, it's weird that I'm picking just books, but I'm currently reading this book called House of Leaves. It's a book about this dude who moves into an abandoned apartment. The guy who died in the apartment before left this sheaf of papers that he discovers, where this dude is analyzing this movie where someone discovers their house is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, but the movie doesn't exist, and this dude is analyzing in endless detail, and this dude that found the papers is analyzing the analysis in endless detail, and it is just like a descent into madness on three fronts, all at the same time, told non-linearly. It is disturbing so far in its depiction of like mental stability, and horrifying in a sort of cosmic way, but that's really good too. It's big and it's hard to read, but it's probably
sounds like
my pick.
Have they made a movie about it? It sounds like they really could.
No, you couldn't make a movie. I don't think you could.
Really?
I don't think you could make a movie out of it.
You have to make a show, basically?
I'm using 3 bookmarks.
3 bookmarks?
Yes, I have to use 3 bookmarks in order to read this book.
Why? Like you have to...
There's appendixes and there are like letters, there's like found things, there are collages that play into it.
Jesus.
It's color coded, like the actual print text of the book is color coded. I guess originally this book was shared
in reading just to use the book.
It's like I said, it's hard to read.
Yeah,
I guess originally this book was shared sort of by hand in a sort of unbound sheaf of paper style. So it's taken a few edits, a few revisions to get it working in a bound book. Yeah. And to be sold on shelves, but it's kind of hard to read, but worth the effort so far. And so I guess, talking about metaphysics, like this dude discovers this dude is like practical photographer. He thinks there's got to be some explanation to this. So that got me thinking, like, we all sort of believe things that we want to believe about the world that's happening around us in order to explain it. Superstitions. It's a long way to explain superstitions. So, do you have any superstitions, Josh?
I don't know.
I have a really light one.
Yeah, give me that, if you want and I'll try to think based off of what you say and see.
I've never really liked watching digital clocks change hour. I don't know why. It probably came from like a fever dream or something like that, but I don't know. When I was a kid, like I didn't really like watching digital clocks change the hour. Like it's a new age sort of bad luck. So I still do it. I don't believe that anything bad's going to happen anymore, but I'll look away if I see a clock at, XX 59. I'll look away.
That's interesting.
Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. There's no basis for it, but
no, that is, yeah. I don't know if I have any that I can.
No, you didn't get too uncomfortable around my black cats.
No, no,
they're just so adorable.
I'm trying to think of, like, there's any common ones that I'm missing.
Black cats, umbrellas inside, shoes on the hat on the bed, rabbit's foot, walking under a ladder, breaking a mirror. No.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess there's nothing that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I was kind of curious, because I know we're pretty practical dudes, but sometimes this stuff sort of crops up.
Yeah. No, you're definitely right. It does.
So that's superstition. But what about just straight up like supernatural stuff? Have you had anything happen to you that you just like couldn't explain a weird?
Yep.
Serendipity or
100%.
Okay.
I have a couple. I have a story about me, and then a couple other little ones to touch on. So for me,
right.
You've obviously been in my parents' house.
Yep.
I was asleep downstairs, in the living room downstairs.
Okay.
My mom was upstairs asleep in her room. Dad was at work. And how you have to take the stairs down into the downstairs. And then there's like the back room area.
Yep.
Okay. So there's the door at the top of the stairs, and there's the door going into the kitchen from the back room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's no airflow or anything to do any kind of wind there. I mean, it's in the dead center of the house. So this was probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days after my grandmother had passed away, and I couldn't sleep. I was too hot, so I went downstairs, cooler down there, to sleep on the couch. So I know that the door at the top of the stairs is closed because I closed it when I went down, and the door going into the kitchen from the back room was open. And I was just about to fall asleep, laying there, and all of a sudden the door just slammed closed. And I'm like, I'm at this point, I don't know how old I was. I want to say I was like 2000. I was like 16, maybe.
Okay.
But I just remember like waking up, like coming to almost, like I wasn't fully asleep, but like just snapped out of that dream state kind of thing. And I was like, Mom, I asked, seeing if it was there, and then I just like start freaking out, like grab something, like get up in case there's somebody there, and I just have to start trying to beat up somebody with something.
Yeah, right.
And like I get out there, turn the lights on, like there's nothing anywhere, nobody anywhere,
Hmm.
no signs. I went through the whole house, no signs of anything, no windows open, nothing.
Ooh.
And the door was just closed, and my mom never even heard it. So it's like just this weird thing, but like it was clearly closed when I got up, it was closed.
Yeah. I don't know. My like irreparably practical mind starts thinking of ways to like explain things away. And I'm not trying to disprove you from this at all, but like there's this phenomenon called exploding head syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of the syndrome, but I've never.
It's basically like
exactly what it is.
As you're in that like between dream state, you're falling asleep, but before you've actually fallen asleep and hit stage 2 sleep, sometimes like your limbic system goes crazy and you hear loud noises.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain the physical change,
closed.
So like I'm not like again, I'm not trying to discourage you from like your experience, but
well, that's what had me thinking.
That's where my brain
not hearing it.
Yeah, that's where my brain always goes with these things, though. Is I'm like, there's an explanation. My fucking pretentious BS.
Yeah. So that's the only one that involves me, but I have a few more.
Mm-hmm.
So, my brother is substantially older than me.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad's father had passed away before I was born. I never got a chance to meet him, but you know where what the road I grew up on was.
Yeah.
Like it's normal traffic. Like there's not a ton of traffic, just normal cars, trucks. Like you don't see anything really out of the ordinary, maybe occasionally a tractor, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Right.
So my brother has always been big into snowmobiling and stuff. And he was outside in the back near the bottom shed messing around with the snowmobile. The snowmobile actually that my dad still has in the backyard.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, the yellow one. Yeah.
Yep.
So he was getting that going and getting ready to go. And he got on and started going up the hill back up towards the side of the house, like going towards the road.
Okay.
And he got like halfway there, and he can only explain that he just saw my grandfather out of nowhere, just standing at the side of the road, just screaming no at him. And he like stopped and started like freaking out because he was like, what is going on? And after he slammed on the brakes to stop because he was freaking out, an 18-wheeler drove by at full speed coming down the hill, and if he hadn't stopped, he would have never heard it coming.
Chills.
And just been slammed. So he came running into the house. Like I've heard this from my mom, and he was just like, it was white as the snow, just shaking.
Yeah.
So that has to do with my brother. Then my aunt, one of my mom's sisters, told me this story when I was younger. She was at home one night. This was like, I don't know, right after Thanksgiving. So everyone's getting ready for, putting their Christmas decorations and stuff up.
Yeah.
And she always put the Christmas tree up, same place, as most people do every year, puts everything up. And she had like a bigger ceiling area. So it was a pretty big size Christmas tree.
Yeah.
So she's the only person home. Nobody else is home. And she's working on like putting the Christmas tree up and like plugging the lights in, and she just starts to feel like this weird cold, like or around her, she said.
All right.
And
don't like that.
And she stood back up. She felt something like grab her shoulder, and she like freaked out and like went to turn around to see what was that, and at that minute the lights went off.
Don't like that.
Yeah. So she like starts freaking out, and she walks over and flips the light switch back on, and the lights go back on, and she's just like trying to convince herself that it's nothing. You just try to be like, oh well, that's not anything. So she starts doing it again, and she said she got like a glimpse of something in one of the bulbs on the tree, like the reflection of a person standing behind her. And she flipped around to see it, and the lights went out again. And then she freaked out and got in her car and left.
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to be home by herself.
Yep.
So that one's kind of more on like the little bit scarier side, because it didn't seem like it was there for a good reason.
Yeah, sure.
If anything. And then the last one, you might know about. I don't know.
I don't know. It's okay. Tell me. I don't need to sleep.
My sister Rebecca was married, and she has my nephew Brady.
Yeah.
And my sister's husband, his two brothers, and their father all went out on the boat on a lake near where we live for the 4th of July. They all went out just riding around on the boat, went across the lake to go to a restaurant to eat, and on their way back across the lake, his brother turned around, kind of like, sideways, turned to watch the firework. And that year the buoys were off on how deep the water was, and they hit an embankment. Like the actual like marker was too low because the water was low. So he hit the actual like pillar that the buoys are stuck into, and it flipped the boat, sending them all flying. I mean, it was a speedboat, but I don't think that they were going crazy fast, but I mean, going across water 5 miles an hour feels fast.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard horror stories that start exactly this way.
Yeah. So they hit and they flip, and obviously they go flying out of the boat, and you hit the water with that kind of impact.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen. But my sister's husband had told us afterwards. He actually told my other sister while they were in the hospital visiting him. Because he had tore his rotator cuff from hitting the water so hard, and just. So he had literally had one arm, couldn't do anything. The second arm, and he's basically knocked out.
Yeah.
From hitting the water, and he could just said it was an out of body experience. So he could feel himself sinking down, and all of a sudden he just felt this glow and warmth around him. And it's so weird for him to say this because doesn't make a lot of it would be very hard to believe this not be real. But he said he saw my grandfather, my mom's mom, who he had started to get close with because they would go there every week before he had passed away to have dinner with him and stuff. And my grandfather was just the epitome of love. Never he was how people say I am. I'm always giggly, laughing. I'm rarely ever in a really bad mood. That's how my grandfather was, just always a good time. And for him to just say that he just heard my grandfather made him open his eyes, and he could just see, when he opened them, all he could see was pictures of my nephew, and hear my grandfather be you have something you have to live for.
Oh wow.
And he swam back up with one arm to the thing and passed out as he hit the water. Hit the top of the water, he passed back out, and luckily his friend Rob that was in the boat behind him had jumped into the water and pulled him out, so he didn't just sink back down. But yeah, he equates basically him being alive to my grandfather.
To your grandfather.
Which
is that's
it's weird because it's not somebody that's it's not his grandfather or somebody else.
Yeah. How does he pull that if it weren't something that he actually believed?
Yep. And it's just crazy to think about.
Yeah,
that would be my recollections. What about you? Do you have anything?
No.
None.
I always just explain things away, or if I can't explain them away, then I just accept that it's something that I don't understand. I always feel that there's an explanation. Not that long ago, I heard something 90% of accounts of hauntings can be attributed to carbon monoxide poisoning. The things that people talk about when they talk about being haunted, being in a haunted house, the sort of paranoia, the all this stuff, the hearing stuff, it can almost always those are symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
Low level, so it takes a long time and it gets worse and worse and worse. And that's obviously what people think when they're in a haunted house. Yeah. I haven't had anything like that extreme where I have to explain it away with carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
But poorly hung doors also are a big thing that make people feel like houses are haunted. It doesn't explain your thing where the door would slam, but doors that slowly close, people are it's a ghost. Yeah. But
yep.
Yeah, no, I had a friend ask me about this one time. I don't know, I said something flippant, and he was like, "So you've never had something that you couldn't explain?" I was just like, no. And he looked at me like I had lobster claws coming out of my ears. I was like,
yeah,
I don't know. I just accept that I don't know everything. I don't need to, but I get there's some things that people experience that are actually unexplainable in a way that it's not just accepting your own shortcomings.
That's why that whole situation with me freaked me out so much, because I'm the same. I'm a logical thinker. That's why my brain was okay, wind. Okay, no, that's not a thing. Okay, shifting how it's on a concrete slab.
It's the basement. It's not shifting.
Yeah, it's not, the basement's not shifting. It's just, I don't know. I tried to check off every possible thing, and I could not come to a reasonable, logical explanation for the door just slamming closed.
So I guess that leads into my final question. It's the bigger one, so we can spend as much or as little time on it as you want. But I guess that particular point and the stories that you've been telling me sound like what you would call ghosts. So is that something that you actually believe in? again, no judgment. I don't want you to feel like I'm judging.
I'd say I'm kind of agnostic.
Okay.
When it comes to them, like I believe it could be possible. Do I believe in the ghosts that are going to chase you with a sickle and kill you? No, not really.
Yeah.
But do I believe that there could be other ethereal beings out here that we can't see that are just some kind of energy that we release after? Yeah, I believe that's possible. So I believe that they're kind of might be able to interact in a certain way.
Yeah. So you believe in like a sort of more metaphysical experience of ghosts, where they may inhabit like a pocket dimension. Whatever happens, you descend to the fourth dimension. Then you experience time differently. You could pop in, pop out sometimes when you can exert enough force, something like that. Because that sounds like the experience you're having, like people appearing where they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So that's I can get that.
I would say I think that's probably possible.
Yeah. I get that. I feel like I wanted to believe that for a long time. I tried to square that in my mind for a long time. I couldn't in my own mind, but I respect people who can hold it in their mind. What about like other sort of metaphysical, supernatural, theoretical things? Aliens? Believe in aliens?
Yeah, I definitely think that. I feel like you're kind of got to be foolish to think that if there's an unlimited amount of galaxies, that we're the only being of this intelligence level. Like, I just don't.
Yeah, I don't
see that's how it's possible.
That's Fermi's paradox. He's an incredibly influential astrophysicist, maybe just mathematician. But yeah, given infinite possibilities, there's got to be something. The flip side of that is that with infinite possibilities, it's equally likely that nothing has ever existed. There's the floating brain theory, which is a sort of answer to Fermi's paradox, where statistically speaking, it is more likely that we are just a brain, a thinking piece of matter floating in space, coming up with all of this, than we are actually alive.
Oh.
You can twist theoretical statistics like that basically any way that you want. That particular one is where people started coming up with the sort of simulation theory, which it gets kind of interesting, but people usually believe what is present.
Yeah.
At some point, people believed that we were a brain floating in space. It was the space age. Now people believe we live in a simulation. It's the technology age.
Yeah.
People just come up with things that make sense with what they see around them. So none of those are likely correct, and all of them are likely correct.
So you're so helpful with some of these thoughts.
It gets more into philosophy. People want to sort of debate the metaphysics of it. This British physicist Brian Cox always likes to say like ghosts can exist. They would violate the second law of thermodynamics, and that's inherently pedantic because like arguing about the physics or the metaphysics or the likelihood of something is much less interesting than talking about the philosophy of how and why these things exist in our brains or as a society.
Yeah, like if they're not real, where did they come from?
Yeah.
Where did the idea of them start?
Everything gets explained in time, like sleep paralysis, that phenomenon.
Yeah.
It's linked to, it's basically the exploding head thing, but in reverse. You are waking up, or your body wakes up, but your mind like has a thing that physically locks your body so that you don't act out your dreams.
Yeah.
Your conscious mind wakes up, but your physical mind doesn't. And for some reason, something about the areas of your brain that are activated during dreaming have to do with fear. And so you wake up, you're seeing a manifestation of a dream, and you are irrationally fearful. And that has led to a lot of interpretations of demons. There's this old folklore about this witch that would come and sit on your chest while you were asleep and suffocate. And the historical interpretation is that it was society at the time's interpretation of sleep paralysis. And because it was so widespread, a lot of people saw it. So stuff like that is interesting to me. And it's not to say that these things are somehow invalid. Those people were, I had one instance of sleep paralysis. You are so afraid of those poorly drawn 2-dimensional girls standing at the foot of your bed, which is what mine were.
Oh, man.
It's silly when I think about it now, but it's like any nightmare, except you are actually awake and you know you are awake, but you can't move, and you are afraid of whatever your brain puts in front of you.
Yeah, I haven't had anything like that. I'll touch on this too. I did have you ever had like crazy reoccurring dreams?
No, I don't dream very much.
Okay.
In general.
So I've always been like a hit or miss dream person for the most part. Like I might dream 2 times out of the week, or 1 time, or none at all, but it kind of evens itself out, I feel like. But at one point when I was living in North Carolina, I had the same reoccurring dream for 3 months straight.
Ooh, that's spooky.
Yeah. And it would be, have you ever had an out-of-body dream experience?
No, I have had an out-of-body funny experience.
Yeah. So, that feeling of like, you can see yourself, like you're looking at yourself in this dream, and in the dream it's so fucking weird because like I'm sleeping, I'm dreaming, I'm in my bed. Yeah. And in this dream, I'm laying in bed. Like it's like I'm looking at myself literally top down of exactly what I'm seeing at the moment as I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And there's just this giant black spider that just comes down off the ceiling and is just hovering over my face. And in the dream, I could feel like, I could see it happening, but out of that, I could feel like the pressure of it being above me. Like there's just this thing hovering above me.
Yeah.
And right when it would I'd wake up and see it, that's when I would wake up in real life.
Yeah.
And I had that almost every night, if not every night, for 3 months.
Yeah, that stuff.
And then it just stopped.
God, that stuff would freak me out. If I had that dream, I would be just as freaked out. And not to minimize it, but it reminds me of. Did you ever play Super Hot, the video game?
Super Hot? No.
It's a puzzle shooter. Basically, like you move, everything moves when you move, and it doesn't move when you're not moving.
Okay.
So you're sort of figuring out the series of actions that you need to do to finish the scenario, and eventually the meta narrative runs into you are not just playing a game, you are controlling someone and being controlled, and they eventually make you go and see yourself sitting in front of your computer playing the game, and something about that exact experience is just so unsettling. The idea that you can be sort of yourself but not yourself, watching your real self.
Yeah.
That truly sends shivers down my spine. I don't know if I would be able to keep my mind intact if I experienced that. Yeah,
it messed me up for a while after, and then it just honestly, that was the spark of when I started looking back to moving back home.
Oh yeah,
I realized
telling you something.
It was like everything that was weighing down on me, and I just had this guilt of not being home because my parents are older, and then feeling the weight of being away and missing my nephew's growing up.
Yeah,
and
I know what
missing
that's
all my high school friends growing up. I don't know, and then start to question if you're really happy or not down there. I'd been there for a while, and at first everything's super fun, and I don't remember moving down there at all. But then things start to weigh on you, and I guess they were weighing on me a little too much. To the point where I was just brushing them off and just pretending I wasn't having these thoughts. Apparently, probably for a little too long.
I guess.
Because once I started to work those out in my mind, that's when it just stopped.
Yeah.
Once I was able to, because obviously as it was happening, it was freaking me out. It wasn't I waited 3 months to figure out, why I was having it. It was okay, after the first couple weeks, you're I'm pretty sure I had that same dream. And then you're wait a minute. I've been having that same dream every time. I started to kind of look into stuff and what possible meanings are for, and what things could happen in people's life to try to trigger these, and that's what I was able to come across. That's what was causing it. It was just all this weight of these thoughts that I had in me that I was suppressing.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to believe that no, I made the choice. I moved. I'm happy. You have to
Yep.
You don't want to admit that you're going as much as it's not going backwards.
Yeah.
Moving back to the state you were originally from, it can feel like that. And I think I was trying to hold.
I know that that people don't like hearing people's dreams, but I love hearing people's dreams, like especially when you start like digging into it. If someone's receptive to it, like it's fun, you know. You have that spider hanging over you. It's just something bad looming, you know. And like you said, you may have been thinking like, I could make this work. And you know, I'm not actually feeling this way. It's just a dream. But yeah, once you start to really identify it, like this is how your brain is telling you something. It doesn't have words, it has images.
Yeah.
You know,
like, you know, this is how the rest of your body feels.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Like, you know,
something's
you need to work this shit out.
Something's coming, and it's coming in a way that you can't avoid because you're asleep and you can't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can appreciate that. And you know, speaking for myself selfishly, like I'm glad to have you back. Yeah.
Yeah.
We still live a little ways away from each other, but at least we can, you know, see each other.
Oh yeah. We
whatever.
see each other way more than
a few times a year
when I was down there. You know, it's good to be back. And I you know, you start to take for granted those things, and that's what it came down to. Is like a lot of people don't have the bond that it seems like we all made with either friends, even families. Like I just feel like the families of our friends, are pretty tight knit. Like I would say your family's pretty close. Your parents and your brother and you, like you guys are relatively close as far as even everything goes. Even
like you said, the family friends, like your parents were at my wedding. I'll be at their 50th anniversary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like my parents are probably the closest thing to second parents that you could have.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I get that. I always think of it as a small town sort of thing. Like it's a big enough city where we had some stuff. Like it wasn't technically the middle of nowhere. You know, we didn't have to drive an hour to get to the nearest Applebee's. But it's still small enough that it feels like a small town, even if where we were actually was a small town.
Yeah. But like just the overarching area.
Yeah, the overarching area, like it fosters this closeness between people. Like my brother has his whole friend group from high school, not barely from high school. We moved up to the country when he was like a freshman in high school, and he still kept in touch with and is still friends to this day with all of his friends from his previous school. Yeah. It's just a small town feel.
Yep. Yeah. So. Something that you really can't be replicated. So you start to just feel like you need it back. It's something about small towns. You know, it's not a whole lot to do. Spend a lot of time, you know, doing things that you can do. Being outside, looking at the sky, not a whole lot of lights around. Have you seen a UFO? Are you asking me if I've seen one?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I did believe that I did one night.
Huh?
And I actually forgot. I might have talked to you about it. I don't know. But it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. And I was at Seven Hamlets, the brewery that I was telling you about.
Okay.
With Dan and his girlfriend, and then 2 other people that they had invited. So like we're drinking, and it starts to get late, and we're sitting out by the fires there. And then we get up, and we're all gonna start leaving, but start standing there talking. The next thing I know, there's like an hour and a half goes by, and we're still all standing in the circle talking. And like I was pretty drunk because I wasn't driving. So I was like, okay. And me and Dan are standing there, and we both look up, and we just see this like string of lights just rolling across the sky.
Okay.
And it looks like they were like flickering or flashing, and it was the first time I'd ever seen something like it.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, I don't know what's going on. I couldn't understand it. And I started to think about it in the morning, and I was like, what could that have been? Like, there's no way that's what I just saw. Because, of course, like, we pointed it out and started yelling to everybody that we were around it. Like, look at that. Like, look up in the sky. And everyone saw it. So it's like, I wasn't just drunk in my mind. So I had to know. And it ended up being the Starlink satellites.
Ah, boo.
Yeah, but it's like, they're not on the track where they go by where I'm looking all the time.
Yeah, right.
And, like, you know, it probably just had a little bit of overcast in small spots, so it was giving that flickering effect, so it looked like the lights were flickering, and you see this, like, string of, like, 12 lights in a row go across the sky for, like, seems like infinity. I was like,
That is.
Am I about to get probed? Or like, what's going on here?
That is neat though. But this is what I'm saying. Like you got that logical mind. You had to know. You looked it up. Yeah. There's someone in that circle of people who still tells people about the UFO they saw. You know it.
Oh, 100%. No doubt in my mind.
So yeah.
What about you? Do you believe in him?
I don't know. I used to have this sort of philosophical fear of aliens when I was conditioned to read the Bible a little bit more literally. Like, you know, we were created in God's image, so I had this philosophical fear of aliens. What if we found them? What if they were humanoid? What if they weren't humanoid? What does that say about the universe? But I've long since stopped holding hard beliefs, so it's a lot easier for me to say, like, I'm definitely open to the idea of aliens and the idea that aliens are probably not going to be something that we recognize. If they're carbon-based life forms at all, almost certainly not going to be humanoid unless this just happens to be this universe's physically most stable form. But I don't know. It will be interesting. I know that, you know, the government actually like monitors and researches UFOs and aliens. You know, that big report came out a few years ago and then everybody immediately forgot about it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. A lot of people much smarter than me are looking for this stuff, and there has to be a reason. I think there's a reason for why humans do everything. It's sometimes not a good reason, but there's a reason. These people at SETI, for some reason, believe, you know, maybe they're just operating on Fermi's paradox, but they believe that it's possible that we could find someone or something out there that's capable of communicating with us.
I mean, it's crazy to think about too, because it kind of falls into the same thing where if you listen to people that have studied technology and like the growth of humanity, they say that we're going to experience such a significant jump in technology in the next 50 years.
Right.
It's going to surpass all of what we've learned since the beginning of time. Which is just crazy to think about. Like, because it feels like we've made generationally crazy jumps from like when we were young to where we are now.
Right. And we have.
And to think that that's going to like just basically going to have its dick knocked in the dirt with what's about to happen. It's nuts to think about. Like,
I know. It's funny. That reminds me, like, there's this saying by famous author Arthur C. Clarke. He wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey. I always want to say oddity, but he's a science fiction author, and his argument when people lumped him in, some of his contemporaries got offended when people would lump the sci-fi writers in with fantasy, and his take on it, it's a very famous quote, is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It could be what people have experienced in the past with aliens. You know, maybe we have gotten visited. They just thought it was magic. They just thought it was gods. They just thought it was this or that. And maybe technology will advance so quickly that by the end of our lives, we will just believe in magic because we won't recognize technology no more.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about. It's kind of nuts.
So I think with that little nugget of brain food and 2 hours in.
I just looked over and saw that and I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up. Why don't you start with the acknowledgements?
Yeah, as always, we'd like to just give some acknowledgement to Josh Wardle, the original creator of Wordle, and then Freddie Myers, the creator of QotS. You can find him.
I believe it's Meyer. I don't think it's pluralized. I think it's just Meyer.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, it does say that.
One of us is wrong.
On Twitter. Yeah, you can find him on Twitter at QotS. And if you enjoy our content or if you play QotS daily, consider donating him a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know, goes towards upgrading all of what we're getting. Apparently, there's talk of accounts on the way soon, so
that'll be fun.
Track stuff across multiple devices. I'm sure that'll improve like achievement stuff as well.
Yeah, and you can follow us on our socials. Twitter is at Quord on the Street, QUORD on the ST. Instagram, We are Quord on the Street. Spell out all the street. YouTube's the same, /Quord on the Street. If you're listening to us over there, like, subscribe, and comment. You can review us on Apple Podcast, wherever you can. And submissions. I hope that people are out there listening. And if you are, we want to hear from you. So go ahead and take a look at our socials. We try to post the word list every Saturday or Sunday. And so take a look at the word list. If you see something that sparks your interest, go ahead and give us an email with your quick topic at quordonthestreet@gmail.com. Or hopefully by the time this episode comes out, we'll have our website up, quordonthestreet.xyz, and hopefully we'll have a little submission form in there too. So one way or the other, get in touch with us if you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. My personal Twitter is V_C. Spell out the underscore.
And mine is I'm Scuzzy. IMSKUZZEY.
Just a reminder, I am your genre host, Vince, and that is your sonic host, Josh. I wish I had a song to take us out on, but we'll go out on just asking you to get the